Stop following influencers. Your most valuable resource is time and attention. Everybody wants your attention. Hell, I want yours, technically. But I have a reason, and that's because I really want to help you and help others feel better and feel more empowered and feel confident and happier. So I've had to stop following a lot of influencers. Granted, I still follow some, so I'm not saying you have to stop following anybody who seems like an influencer. But there is a key difference, in my opinion, between influencers who uplift you, inspire you, versus influencers that can make you feel really bad about yourself or have you stuck in a negative mental space. And we're gonna dive into that. Sometimes following influencers can be really toxic and it can be hurtful for you, your health, and your mental health unless you are able to do this. I know what you're thinking.
You still follow influencers. You're kind of an influencer, right?
But see, there's a difference, in my opinion, between a person who influences and a person who is a quote-unquote influencer. I'm sure many of you are aware of what an influencer is, but to kind of give you my point of view, the stereotype of an influencer is usually that they promote a bunch of different products, they travel to so many locations, they usually have flawless photos that they publish and gorgeous places that they go. I think that accounts for a large amount of the population, and you could probably classify myself as one. However, I think that there's a huge difference between a person who influences and a person who is an influencer. And granted, there can be a person who merges both together, because in today's society, it's kind of hard to avoid social media and making photos look a certain way. So by default, a lot of people who have been just artists or who are musicians, writers, because they put that content online and they try to either deliver bite-sized pieces for people to consume so that they gain popularity and could possibly get an income from this, it's hard to classify who is an influencer and who is just posting their content and so happens to be labeled that way because of their success or how they are perceived to the world. Obviously, I don't have all the answers. I'm just a late 20-something who has been on this planet with her own struggles, growing up with MySpace and Facebook, and of course, all the stuff that's going on right now, as well as learning about graphic design through my education and being a blogger and a streamer and a content creator in general. Well, I've learned quite a bit. If you made it this far, thank you so much. It's really nice to meet you. If you're new, I'm Janine. I like to post content about health, personal growth, and just my lifestyle. And a big part of my lifestyle is trying to understand the content creation space and recovering from being a streamer and suffering from a lot of anxiety and just the struggles that come with that. And especially as someone who consumes a lot of reality TV and tries to keep updated with that sphere because I do enjoy those shows, I've had to be really careful about who I choose to follow. I remember learning from a therapist a while back, when you are scrolling through social media and you're looking at certain people's profiles and what they're seeing or what they're doing, she encouraged me to ask myself a few things. One, how do I feel when I see this person's photo and content? So sometimes there are some people who might be posting really heavy things, and maybe you're not at a space to be able to consume that and it's triggering, or you just want to keep your social media lighthearted because you're going through a hard time, so maybe you feel uncomfortable, and that's okay to unfollow someone because of that or to temporarily mute them. But let's say instead you feel jealous, you are starting to see all the places they go and you're like,
Oh my god, I wish I had that job, or I wish I could be them or as skinny as them, I wish I had those things that they have.
I think it's natural for us to compare our situation and our lives to others. If you find yourself comparing and feeling even more bad than usual because you're seeing all these things, that's something to be aware of, and maybe that is something to journal through or to talk to a therapist about. Especially because I feel so privileged in a lot of ways. I used to feel really bad for just the blessings in my life. I still feel very thankful, but I know I learned that there's always going to be someone who has more than you and someone who has less. And of course, I believe that it's what you do with what you have and how you give back to the community in any way, whether that's emotionally, monetarily, that really makes a crucial difference and I think can bring a lot of happiness to our lives. So for the influencers that I did feel where I was comparing myself too much, I had to temporarily unfollow them or just unfollow them in general. However, on the contrary, if you feel uplifted and happy from seeing a person's content, you like seeing their lifestyle or you love seeing their perspective and just their day-to-day via their Insta stories or their blog and what they they write, then I think that's a really good thing. So being aware of where our mind goes when we are scrolling through different content, I think is so important. Because again, if you think of it from an influencer's perspective or just an advertiser, they all want your attention, but our energy is limited. So we have to be really, really, really selflessly selfish and protect our mental space and our energy, because if we don't, it can be very detrimental to us. It can make us feel more stressed, more anxious, and that's not a way that I personally want to live, and I imagine that's something you don't want. So when I say to stop following influencers, I'm more saying stop following influencers that make you feel shitty. Be really selective, because your time and your energy are so valuable. And literally, that is such a finite resource. It really trips me up when I think of how much time we have left, and we don't even know. Like, God granted we can live a long, healthy, happy life, but at the same time, like, you know, it's okay if you don't want to stay updated with all these other people. It's okay if you're only following a handful of people or even just your IRL friends. Like, that's fine. On the other hand, if you want to follow some people who you found on a TV show that you really admire, that's cool too. But just know that we have our own internal limit with our energy, but also just with like our mental space. There's this one effect, I can't remember the name, but it talks about where we only have the capacity to have a certain amount of relationships in our circle, but past that capacity, I think it's about 100. I think it just goes to show that even if you are the most social person in the world, like, you still have limits. So that's where, as much as you'd want to follow a bunch of people and see gorgeous photos, like, you don't have to actually follow them, and you don't actually have to consume all their content. Maybe you really enjoy a person's photos, but you're not the biggest fan of their videos. Or maybe you really like your TikToks, but you don't want to follow their Instagram. Like, that's okay too. And I'm sure most of this might seem really obvious, but the truth is, it's like, it's kind of hard not to follow a bunch of influencers. I had to go on a big unfollow spree at some point because, like I said, I've been really valuing like my energy and my time, so I had to kind of reassess, like, okay, I see this person's content. This is how I feel when I consume it. Do I like this feeling? Do I feel like I'm benefiting from it? Do I feel like I am having a better life because of that? Because I see this person and I see them, I don't know, cooking or living their life, going to gorgeous places. Like, does that make me feel fulfilled and happy? So I can watch a TV show and I find someone who I think is really cool, but I crave depth. I like learning from a person. I either like to emulate certain qualities that they have that I admire, or I try to just learn from their experiences. And when I find that in certain content creators or TV personalities, then that makes me happy and I want to follow them. But of course, not everyone is like that. So you just have to see who is out there and then assess, like, what is it you need in your life? Do you need some positivity and like gorgeous decoration photos, or do you want more depth and to see someone who's also healing from similar things like you are? Or maybe you want a bit of both. If you'd like to follow my Instagram, you're more than welcome, trying to be more active. I also follow content like therapists who post stuff about trauma, so that helps me kind of heal and understand my own life and feel better by working through that. Or I follow art that inspires me. As a creative, it's really cool to see other people doing their thing and admire all the great work out there. I mean, there's a bunch of different people in this world, so there's a lid for every pot. It's almost like dating or like finding friendships. It's really hard sometimes to find people that you click with, but the beauty of the internet, we can just find different people who have similar interests, and usually the algorithm serves what we are into if we like certain things a lot or look at certain things. Anyway, I digress, but I just wanted to put this video and thought out there because I think it's so easy to get wrapped up into mindlessly following people and to following a bunch of people. And I think it's so important to ask ourselves, like, is this content I'm consuming actually making me feel better or helping me in some way? I think that's up for everyone to decide. Ultimately, it's your life. You do you. Let me know in the comments if you also find yourself realizing that you've been following a bunch of people and you've had to unfollow them because of whatever reason, and you understand that maybe their content isn't for you, or you followed so many people it's kind of hard to keep track. I'd love to hear your experiences and your perspectives. I just want to encourage mindfulness, and I want to help people feel better if I can. If you like this, please like and subscribe to be an Everbloom and join our community. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!